member of Cambridge University, Kate Evans. She also works with the Cambridge University. She works with us under SHARE project. We also have Guljanat Asanovna Bermanova, principal of school number 67. Guljanat, please say hi to everyone. We also have Rosa Shayakhanova and Gul Dusinbaeva. They are going to present their work. That's the view of the school involved in SHARE project. You will see how the schools present their views and feedback on SHARE project. We'll also have the reflections of the teachers involved in SHARE. These will be Dinara Kasienovna and Rayhan Anapyanovna. Dinara represents school number 91 and Rayhan is from school 58. So let me briefly tell you about, let me give the floor to Professor Colleen McLaughlin for her to provide brief information about SHARE.
Thank you. Спасибо. Salamatse, доброе утро. I will begin by giving a view, onto the next slide, please, of the project aims and the rationale for the project. The project is based on the idea that the teacher is the most important aspect of the education system. If you want to improve, develop, you have to focus on the teacher. So the project, here are the project aims, as you can see, to improve practice, to develop critical, reflective practice. This is a very important notion. The development of a community of practice, so it's not just about the individual teacher. And we are trying in this project, because it is on behalf of the Akimats, to develop this at school and city level. We're trying to create networks. And we're trying to develop sustainable processes and structure. Next slide, please. So why are we, what informs the way in which we work? Well, what really informs is what we already know about what works and how it works. So the first thing, and it's very, very important, I'm not sure this is the right slide, Nazipa, is this called What Do We Know About and How? Okay, so CPD impacts upon student learning. We know this, and it has a high effect size, 0.9. And that means that it's as effective as changing the system. So, for example, this is slide 4. There it is. So if in the UK, for example, we changed to comprehensive education from a different system, that had an effect size about equivalent to 0.9. So working with teachers, working on professional development has a real impact upon student learning. Second, we know from research that it needs internal building and external support. You need both. You can't just have one. You also need to create what we're calling the enabling conditions. And you have to work with the context. The idea that we are just imposing something here on a culture is far from what we're doing. We are trying to work with the traditions of Kazakhstan and the current context. We have to sustain powerful opportunities for teachers to learn with realistic timescales. One of the problems we have is that we have unreasonable expectations of development. We need high support, mentoring and coaching, and we need to bring all of these things together like a Rubik cube. So this we know from research. So you will see, I hope, how this informs what we're doing. Next slide. We're trying to create communities of practice. So what do we know about communities of practice? We know that learning is social, relational, and that it should be practice focused if it's to make any difference with teachers. We know that a community of practice has to become a collective view, and that it has to pay attention to the context of the school, of the region, and of the nation. And we know that it's about the community and its capacity to learn, but we have to build that community. So therefore we come with these questions. These are core questions which our project is trying to address. How do we build the conditions for learning in a community? How do we know what we think we know? Do we really know if we're having any impact? And how do we learn across communities? Next slide, please. So one way in which we are choosing to do this through action research, again, because we know that it is very good at working in practice and in creating these conditions. It's one way, there are lots of ways, but this is one way we think is a very powerful. You'll see from the process that it is a process of problem solving, but it's also a process of change. It's not just talking about change, it engages you in change and researching the effects of that change. Next slide, please. So let me try to explain through this slide how we're actually working. Why do we use action research? Because it starts from practice and it's about the investigation of practice. I hope you will hear teachers saying that it isn't, the classroom is not the way we, the teachers, see it. It's much more complex than that. It also involves taking action, changing practice. So through these things, through these two things, we are helping the teacher to promote their understanding of practice, to critically reflect. That is crucial. There has to be a community where people engage with each other in challenging what we're thinking. It is an emphasis on what is actually happening, not what you think you happen. And it is something which encourages teachers to take both the student and the parent view of the classroom and of learning. And it's evidence-based. We think that reduces the threat to teachers. It doesn't become a personalized experience where the teacher feels evaluated. It's something where the data, in a sense, carries that load. And lastly, on this bottom here, we're establishing networks because they create ownership and sustainability. They create knowledge. We are creating knowledge. We're asking the teachers to share what they're finding out. This is an example. And we're keen to embed this in the community so leadership becomes absolutely crucial. And we're focused on implementation, not just policy statement. Next slide, please. So again, I'm saying we know this is the research evidence from studies by Philippa Cordingley, who actually spoke at your conference a couple of years ago, that we need to use specialist external expertise in a sustained way. We need to provide these processes listed here of dialogue, of giving and receiving support, and a focus on why we do things, on why things do not work and why they do work. That's the key exploration. So we learn from observing each other and we learn from the tools we use. Next slide, please. So here, therefore, is our structure. These are the things that we have decided are our core areas of work, because these are evidence-based. These are rooted in research. These are not just ideas, they're evidenced ideas. So teacher development is the key. Action research is a powerful tool. Creating the conditions in the schools by working with the leadership of schools and with staff to create good conditions for that teacher development, and to promote and build collaboration. So next slide. Here you see then that we have the key core concepts of our project. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Kate Evans.
Thank you, Colleen. Next slide, please, Nazipa. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity to join you at your conference. Just really would like to take a few minutes just to think about the way in which we've worked over the past few years and just share some reflections on that. Thank you, Nazipa. Next slide. So from the outset, really, we've been absolutely committed to developing a partnership approach between the team based in Cambridge and, crucially, the teams based in Nursultan. So as far as the Cambridge team is concerned, it's a combination of colleagues based in the Faculty of Education, together with practicing teachers and leaders in local schools, and in particular in one school, Bottisham Village College. And the reason for that is that there are long-standing relationships, collaborative working between the university and those schools, and having used over about 10, 12 years action research to help to drive school improvements and develop a reflective culture. But as important has been the team in Nursultan, keen to develop, and in fact, as time has gone on, that team has become more important, developing local leadership. As Colleen says, really, really important to actually have people who understand and can consider the local culture and therefore how the learning is relevant or how it might need to be adapted. And obviously that developing team and that growing capacity, crucial to the long-term sustainability of the project. And as in terms of our sort of approach to the work that we've been doing, very much trying to give active learning opportunities, practical sort of opportunities, and drawing on the sort of the experience and from Bottisham Village College in terms of action research and what's worked and what hasn't worked. Next slide, please. So, like many, I'm sure, of the sort of areas that you're considering in your conference today, there's very much a sort of a pre-COVID and a post-COVID world. And this project started well before we were affected by COVID with the first Share One group. And I'd just like to sort of just share some reflections really between what was possible then and how we've had to adopt things since the reality of COVID. So obviously we were able to work in person. We were able to meet together, both in Kazakhstan and with a visit to Cambridge. And I think that actually in-person work was really crucial. And in a number of ways, really, I think that it helped us to develop relationships. So between the Cambridge team and the Nursultan team and the teachers in the schools, but also between the schools themselves. And as time progressed, that we were, feel as though that we built up a Share One group identity. That helped us, I think, to overcome some of the initial challenges, and inevitably it's about building trust. It's about developing those relationships to be able to be very honest and open about, for example, what's working well in a school and what are the areas for development, and also help to overcome some of the initial sort of natural competition that there was between schools of actually sort of when presenting and talking about their work. And it really helped to foster collaborative working. One of the really important areas that we have focused on is just making sure that we're setting this work in the context of what schools are trying to achieve. So clearly this is a school improvement project, but we've been really trying to support schools to explore and develop the notion of a really clear teaching and learning vision for their school. And that this project, this SHARE project through action research, is one means of helping to make that vision become a reality. And as the project has progressed, we've been working with schools to look at the fact that actually you might have lots of different projects going on, but actually having that central teaching and learning vision will underpin all of them and will help to give a sense of clarity and coherence. And also through that work, and this did take time, in the sense that this is talking about really through that teaching and learning vision, it's about deep and meaningful change that will be sustainable over a long period of time, that won't be dependent upon any individual leader, is actually what the school needs going forward. And that takes time. And that has been one of the challenges really of trying to manage expectations locally. Thank you, Nazipa. Next slide. So certainly that, as I say, that pre-COVID period, being able to meet and develop those relationships was absolutely important. Clearly, as we got into the realities of COVID and the new groups, sort of Share 2 and 3 came online, that was no longer possible. We had to change our plans and we had to move to developing sort of online webinars, complemented increasingly importantly actually by local sessions in Nur Sultan. We used a combination of webinars, of mentoring sessions, using material, of recorded lessons to try to bring that sort of the virtual visit to Bottisham to light. But we have to be honest and actually say that that proved to be more challenging. And in the same way that teachers in schools have been learning about the realities of online learning, indeed so have we. In some areas have worked better than others, and we've tried to adapt those to make them more practical in their application as we've been going through. But the local sessions that have become more frequent throughout this second phase have become really, really important. Through that, actually, I think giving an opportunity for more meaningful reflection after sort of our sessions together, but also with colleagues and network learning coordinators in particular, being able to reflect and think about your local context and contextualize it. The network learning coordinators as a group, I think have from the outset really have proved to be very important, but certainly we've been giving some emphasis to helping to support them through their leadership role, both within their own school and indeed beyond the school. And we're also mindful during this sort of second and third phases that obviously the pressures on school of switching between sort of students in school and online learning have been enormous. And therefore the opportunities for carrying out some of the action research activities in person in schools with young people has been more challenging. But absolutely, I think we're all clear that there are many opportunities indeed to help the learning about lockdown and COVID gaps and so on, that we can use this project to help to address some of those issues going forward. Thank you, Nazipa. Next slide. So as we look forward about the next stage of the project, we are very much aware that there are, through the network learning coordinators in particular, that there are links that are developing between the different shared groups, but we're conscious that there are opportunities that we need to take further to ensure that there's mutual learning, that network that Colleen has referred to begins to develop more meaningfully, and that the knowledge that is being created throughout this work is shared more widely across the system rather than staying within an individual school or an individual group. And as far as the long-term sustainability of the project is concerned, we're absolutely clear that sort of continuing to develop and build on local leadership capacity for this project is crucial, and the growing to sort of add to that team of network coordinators and help to support their leadership development is really, really crucial. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Professor McLaughlin, may I call Colleen because we are working. For the audience, probably I will give a little bit of brief. Құрметті әріптестер, осы шея жобасына келіп отырғандарыңыз.
Dear colleagues, we are here to discuss the SHARE project. And you know the meaning of the word share. To share means to exchange our knowledge and our experience with other schools in order to get better together. Professor Colin McLaughlin and Kate Evans just told you that they've been working with the colleagues from Kazakhstan for 3 years already, both offline and online. And now we'd like to listen to the opinions of the school principals. And well, we also would like to listen to the opinions of teachers who were an important participants of this system. So Guljanat Asanovna, I'd like to give the floor to you. Good day, dear conference participants and colleagues. I'm really glad to be able to talk about our experience as part of SHARE project. The sound is off. I cannot hear the speaker.
Извиняюсь, можете включить звук, пожалуйста?
The microphone is off.
Естіліп тұр ма енді?
Yes, now we can hear the speaker. So, good day, dear colleagues and conference participants. I'm really glad to talk to you today about the project that is called SHARE, and I'm really glad to share our experience among 5 schools in Nur Sultan. We had a lot of questions, and we were thinking about what kinds of achievements and what kinds of obstacles the schools would deal with. And here we are sharing the experience and the results of SHARE. The authors of the project include Abdurrahmanova Guljanat Asanovna, Rosa Akpanovna, and what's the relevance of this research? The school teachers were supposed to improve their experience and teaching techniques as a result of this project. And also we wanted to create the community of teachers and to establish collaboration across teachers. So these two relevant issues were the issues of concern. And we, among 5 schools, carried out relevant sessions, trainings, coaching sessions, mentorship sessions, as well as different types of dialogues and surveys. And these dialogues or surveys or questionnaires were processed, and as a result of these questionnaires or surveys, we carried out additional work as part of the focus groups. We, of course, paid attention to planning, assessment, and reflection. These participating schools and expressed their views or feedback. So among 5 schools and 75 participants, we carried out this questionnaire or survey, and our goal there was to find out what were their opinion and feedback prior to the research and post-research. So here's their set of opinions. In our pedagogical community, we had a number of teachers who attended different trainings, and we wanted to get results immediately, but forgot to pay attention to some smaller issues. Also, when we were posing questions or asking questions, we were quite confused or shy, thinking that some of the questions might be wrong. or silly. So some of the teachers expressed that point of view, and uh, some of the respondents said that a lot of them were afraid of making mistakes. That is why when there were some conferences, they were not willing or to take part in these conferences voluntarily, but because they were forced to. So since this is the third year of the research, here are the changes that we were able to observe. Well, first of all, the teams are working on the more effective level. The level of trust, transparency, and openness is much higher. And also, a lot of teachers are not afraid of asking questions or asking clarification questions. So, ethical norms are fully complied, and now the teachers communicate with each other on a more open and transparent basis. And the teachers are now capable of carrying out certain literature review and provide their reflections. In conclusion, these are our thoughts regarding the project. Of course, we do have some challenges and obstacles. Well, first of all, our teachers have a lot to learn with regards to reflection or reflective capabilities. And well, we have uh, a lot of groups in each school, and it's necessary to instill these research and reflective skills to them. We also want to ensure the 100% work among all the teachers because of the restrictions that we observe nowadays. And when it comes to resolving some questions, some of the school teachers still have some pros and cons and some obstacles on the school level. That is why uh, we also try to admit one thing with regards to the school resources. Uh, we just need to admit the fact that we do not read a lot, uh, and probably we need to improve our level of comprehension of the school material or reading of material. And whenever we hold some research classes, it's necessary to hold, let's say, an open class where different teachers could take part just observing the class or the lesson. Also, we need to um, uh, admit the fact that this project helped us take different perspectives at research, and teachers, we are looking at different possibilities for attracting more teachers. We've changed the model of pedagogical collaboration, and right now we see that the teachers cooperate with each other on a regular basis, being more open. Also, we're forming these communities of school teachers where we share or announce about different activities and exchange knowledge or experience. And I think that this openness and transparency leads to better mutual understanding, improving the level of teaching and learning. Of course, is possible thanks to reflective teachers, and the project helped us form the model of um, student-centered learning. We try to think more of our students, trying to improve their level of understanding and their level of learning. And that is why every teacher right now focuses on being student-centered. Another thing that I would like to mention here is inclusive education. We had a different perspective of inclusive education, and we are actively implementing it in our schools. So this work is being comprehensively implemented in the schools of Nur Sultan right now. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm ready to answer all of your questions.
Көп рахмет.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I would like now to give the floor to Rayhan Askerovna. Well, Now we will talk about the reflections of teachers. Dinara will take my seat and Raihan will take Guljanat's seat for them to share their results on under the project.
Қайырлы күн, құрметті
Good day. Good day, dear conference participants. First of all, I would like to share our experience during this conference, and actually we're very thankful for this opportunity to share our experience. So today we're going to talk about the teacher's reflection under the SHARE project. So we are here to share some results of this work together with all of you. We are based in the city of Nur Sultan, and we wanted to talk about that work that was done on the city level. So Dinara Kasyanovna and Raihan Lapyanovna, as coordinators, network coordinators, will share the results. Hello, everyone. One of the goals of the state program of education development for 2020 to 2025 is to increase global competitiveness of the Kazakhstani educational system. So SHARE project is aimed at achieving this goal. And since the project goals are about increasing the quality of education, one of the objectives of the project was to create a professional reflexive community of teachers that are capable to learn throughout their lives. And since a reflection can have a direct impact on learning, we started thinking about the reflective skills among the participants of SHARE project. For that, we carried out literature review in order to better understand what's reflection. For example, John Dewey had his own understanding of reflection, and he said that an individual needs to address his inner world, his experience, his knowledge, his thoughts, his actions, and an individual needs to understand why he does that and for what purpose. So we learn by our reflections of experience, not by our experience. David Kolb talked about the four-tier system of learning, and he talked about practical learning. So reflection allows to reach a progress from going away from experience and moving towards comprehension. Gibbs talks about the cyclical model that also leads to the vision of future events. And it's divided into several components as well. Sean divides reflection into reflection in time and reflection post-reflection. So post-reflection means reflecting on what has already happened and what can be changed in the future. So considering the teacher's reflection, we decided to follow Sean's classification. So how do teachers understand reflection? In order to find this out, we used SHARE 1, SHARE 2, and SHARE 3 surveys among the school teachers during webinars and local in-person sessions. We also disseminated these surveys through different social media accounts such as Facebook accounts, and from SHARE 1, 16 teachers, from SHARE 2, 21 teachers, and from SHARE 3, 14 teachers took part in this work. So what have we noticed or observed? The teachers use reflection only during local sessions and webinars when they give an assignment or ask a question. Then teachers understand reflection as the way of discussing something during the classes, and uh, they believe that reflection is possible only when it's possible to reflect one's personal experience or when it's possible to have a clear focus. And here on these diagrams, on these graphs, you see these results by percentages. When we were thinking about what is reflection for teachers, the teachers also indicated that they forget to reflect before the classes, and they mostly focus on post-reflection. And the surveys on Facebook actually helped us identify some of the challenges among teachers. So when is reflection really useful for teachers? As they indicated, the reflection sessions are really useful during webinars, in breakout rooms, during online meetings, or during local meetings, in-person meetings. However, during webinars, being reflective is more challenging because it takes more time, and it is really quite difficult to think of reflection when a question is asked or an assignment is given. So if you look at these graphs, well, local sessions are usually more useful for reflection because as part of share 1, share 2, and share 3, all schools tried to pay attention to reflection according to Sean, and they also tried to focus on the post-reflection. For example, if we look at in-person local webinars or sessions with the participation of teachers, where the teachers have an opportunity to share either their experience or to compare their experience to experience of others, then the reflection goes really well in their case. We also tried to research the reflections before and reflections after. And we were thinking about whether or not it's possible to ensure the reflections before local sessions and before webinars. We couldn't make any specific observations. However, we were convinced that in a lot of cases, the teachers do not actually have an opportunity to have self-reflection, but they try to do so whenever they read some literature or do literature review or look at some video materials. Still, we weren't able to observe this pre-reflection among teachers. Considering this question, we see that share 1 and share 2 and share 3 teachers usually have an opportunity to reflect during local sessions, in-person sessions. But as regards group 3, it is really important for them to reflect in the presence of coordinator. As for other two groups, they prefer to have self-reflection after the webinars in the community of other volunteers. They say that the opinion of colleagues matter to them, and the facilitator plays a secondary role. Also, Group 3 says that they mostly reflect during local sessions because they feel more comfortable among people that they know, and they also feel more productive during the reflections. So what are the conclusions? During the implementation of Share project, we figured that the reflection during the process is more prevalent, and usually there should be some questions asked in order to incentivize reflection. Also, we see that there is insufficient pre-reflection or reflection before the actual sessions among teachers because they have insufficient maybe reading skills. As for post-reflection, it is really difficult to control it or to evaluate it, although we do have more of a post-reflection than pre-reflection, and that is why the type of reflection changes depending on the time of participation in a project. So this is these are the conclusions that we reflect as part of our experience as a result of the project. Thank you so much for your attention.
Презентацияны түсіресіңіз. Құрметті әріптестер,
Dear colleagues, now our presentations are over. If there are some questions, please send them to us. If you want to learn more about SHARE, please get in touch with us. I'd like to once again say that Professor Colin McLaughlin from Cambridge has been working in Kazakhstan for about 10 years or so, and she's continuing this cooperation with us as part of SHARE project. Kate Evans is also a good friend of ours. We've been working with her for over 10 years. She was a principal of Botishem School. She worked with Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools for a long time, and we are continuing our work together under this project. And we actually are working a lot in order to find out what kinds of experience and expertise could be used in our schools. So, Kate, thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much for being here, Colin. So I just wanted to say that these 5 schools that took part in SHARE, and these are the schools 67, 91, 58, and other schools, these schools are now actively working on affecting in a positive way the school students, applying the results and recommendations of SHARE. For now, our session is over. We invite you to attend our future sessions in the afternoon. See you soon. Thank you for your attention.
See you at the session.